Now on Fox 13 News at 9, a motorcyclist is rescued in Big Cottonwood Canyon after a crash forced the rider over a cliff. What we're learning coming up.
3 brand new schools, some still under construction, and new boundary changes upsetting parents. How Weber School District's first day of school is set to go tomorrow.
Temperatures back on the rise, but we have a big cool down with an approaching cold front. When does it hit? I'll let you know.
The Canyon School Board approved something that will greatly benefit students. We'll show you what it is coming up.
How water-saving techniques are being used to help the Great Salt Lake.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Evans.
And I'm Kelly Chapman. Weber School District's first day of school is tomorrow, and with the new year comes a lot of big changes.
Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser shows us how 3 brand new schools are bringing a lot of excitement and already some complaints.
The buses are ready to board. The lockers ready to open. But the brand new elementary school and high school are not so ready for students.
There's going to be a lot of work still happening over the next several months.
Wednesday is Weber School District's first day back, and the 3 new schools are stirring up concerns. The new boundaries have caused many changes. Some kids once bused to school are now having to walk. Parents say elementary schoolers shouldn't be walking to school alone for half an hour.
That's been a surprise for some and frustrating for others, especially working parents or single parents.
It's actually out of the district's control what's a designated walk zone. That's set by the state.
For an elementary, it's 1.5 miles. For secondary schools, it's 2 miles.
Families have also stressed that some neighborhoods don't have sidewalks, and major construction worries them. The district says the boundary changes in new schools were necessary because other buildings had way too many students.
Sometimes when these overcrowded schools, it feels like a salmon trying to swim upstream.
That's Matthew Patterson, principal of Mountain View Junior High, one of the new schools that's set to start the school year on time.
It's just so much fun. They walk in and their eyes open up super wide, and there's just a sense of excitement, and just to see that on their faces, it doesn't get old.
The district is hoping Westfield High School and Haven Bay Elementary can wrap up construction and open its doors September 3rd.
It's been challenging this year, and we understand, parents have concerns, and we're trying to work with them individually and in different neighborhoods and communities to address those issues.
Parents who want their kids to take the bus can apply for an exception through the district transportation department. However, spaces are very limited and nobody is eligible for the first 2 weeks of school. That's so the district can study the bus seat availability. Reporting in Weber County, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
It was a scary situation at Big Cottonwood Canyon this evening when a motorcyclist had to be rescued after crashing off a cliff. This happened just after 7 p.m. The Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office said the 25-year-old rider failed to navigate the curve in the road about 4 miles up the canyon and went off the cliff. Unified Fire Authority personnel are rappelling down to retrieve the victim, who officials say is in critical condition. The canyon road had to be closed for a time due to the rescue operation, but it has since reopened.
New at 9, we've learned the Canyon School District Board of Education has approved a contract to acquire the former eBay campus in Draper. It'll be the future home of a high school that is dedicated to preparing students to excel in STEM subjects in the classroom. Those are science, technology, engineering, and math. The deal also includes enough land on the 36 acres of prime real estate for a school to handle growth that is expected with the development of The Point, the former site of the Utah State Prison. District leaders say the technical high school will also help feed into Silicon Slopes.
The timing of the availability of the property coincides seamlessly with the region's economic trends and Canyon's district's long-range and strategic plans. Furthermore, the innovative plan to retrofit eBay's former offices into a school instead of paying for new construction will save millions in taxpayer money and perhaps serve as a blueprint for districts across the country.
A spokesperson for eBay sent a statement to Fox 13 News saying they are excited their former site can become a hub of learning designed to cultivate the technology leaders of the future.
Utah, how do you cast your vote?
Utah, home of 8 tribal nations, the crossroads of the West, the Beehive State, the host of the 2034 Winter Olympics, the youngest and fastest growing state in the nation, and the next battleground state. Mr. Secretary, we proudly cast 34 votes for Vice President Kamala Harris!
Wow, the crowds were out tonight. That was Utah's part of the ceremonial roll call of the delegate votes for Vice President Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, to clinch the nomination for the Democratic Party. Afterward, Vice President Harris and Governor Walz briefly took the stage, and there was a who's who of speakers as well, from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Former President Barack Obama is the keynote speaker for night 2 of the DNC. He has yet to take the stage. We will monitor that speech and bring you some of what he has to say later in this newscast. Fox 13 News will carry the last 2 nights of the Democratic National Convention later this week. We'll have live Fox News coverage of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's acceptance speech. That will take place tomorrow night, and Vice President Harris's acceptance speech on Thursday. Both events beginning at 8 p.m. right here on Fox 13.
Meantime, protests outside the DNC continue to ramp up. The Associated Press reports pro-Palestinian demonstrators charged a line of police in an intense standoff outside the Israeli consulate. We've seen several protesters detained, although we don't have an exact number of how many. We'll be sure to keep you updated as we learn more.
Back here at home, several structures were damaged after last night's storm, wind and rain in many parts of the state. Take a look at this. Layton City Fire shared these photos showing how high winds caused a large tree to fall on top of a house, going through the roof, splitting rooms in half. No injuries were reported, thankfully. Fire officials now urging all Utahns to stay safe and cautious as cleanup continues.
My goodness, it is our hope that we have seen the worst of the weather for now, Brett.
Oh my goodness. These storms last night supercharged, right? A trifecta, bringing the winds, the lightning, the rain. We're still having a few areas with some thunderstorms moving through. We turn towards east central Utah. UDOT traffic camera along I-70. Again, this is near Green River. You don't have to wait for too long before you see that flash being produced by the lightning, as it's been lighting up the sky here over the past half hour or so. We've been looking at this line of thunderstorms north of Hanksville, now pushing through Green River. We have some flash flood warnings in effect here across the state. As we turn towards, again, southeastern, east central Utah, that focus right now, line of thunderstorms making its move. It looks like tracking over the south end of Lake Powell, moving off towards the northeast. We had some showers making their move near Goblin Valley, so northwest of Hanksville, pushing through. With that, there, it looks like from radar estimates, is seeing about 3/4 of an inch of rain in a short period of time. So thus flash flood warning in effect. So yeah, near Goblin Valley, a little wild horse there until 10:45. Again, that line of showers continuing to track towards the northeast. In its sights, Green River, you're getting slammed as you'll get hit. And then this potentially, a piece of it could be moving over towards Moab into Arches and then heading over towards Grand Junction. So that's where the focus is right now. The temperatures today, though, close to triple digits. We got up to 99 degrees in Salt Lake City. We're feeling the heat, but as I mentioned, we got a nice cool down with a hint of autumn in the forecast. We'll go through those details coming up in just a few minutes.
Fox 13 News has learned from multiple informed sources several Salt Lake City police officers are now on administrative leave.
Now, before we go on, we want to warn you that some of the details of this case are graphic. The case surrounds accusations of inappropriate contact with a dead body earlier this month. The incident occurred at least one of the police officers is on leave, is accused of cutting open blisters on a dead person's body. Some witnesses have described the case as a prank that was played on a rookie officer. We reached out to the police department for more information on the case. All they told us is they don't comment on employment matters. The Fox 13 News Investigates team is in the process of gathering more detail and requesting body camera video of the incident.
The Fifth Ward Meeting House in Salt Lake City that was illegally demolished on Easter Sunday is now under new ownership. Salt Lake City confirmed the recent sale, but said it has not had interaction with the new owners. Fox 13 News is working to confirm who they are. The building was originally used as a meeting house of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It was later a Tibetan temple and then a music venue. And while the building has gone unused in recent years, it was designated as part of the National Registry of Historic Places, as well as a local historic landmark. City officials say the developer never got a demolition permit. And the fine levied was $300 a day until the developer reached an agreement with the city or until he restored the building. The city tells us today those fines are still in place, even with the new owners.
We have an update to a police shooting in Roy from the weekend. The suspect has died. Police say they tried to stop 46-year-old Jeremy Lundgren Saturday night, wanted for enticing a minor over the internet. Officers say he ran away, and when they found him, he started shooting at them. They returned fire and hit him. He was taken to the hospital where he died this morning.
The state is suing the federal government, laying claim to a lot of land in Utah.
Plus, a mother and her 3 children reported missing out of St. George have been found.
Why an Amber Alert was not issued in this case.
Real Salt Lake returning to regular season play after a 19-day break. Here from head coach Pablo Mastroeni.
The state of Utah has filed a massive lawsuit against the federal government.
As Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow explains, they're demanding the feds turn over millions of acres of land, nearly a third of the entire state.
It is time that we stand for our land.
The governor and other Utah leaders announced a lawsuit staking claim to millions of acres of public lands across the state.
They've kept this land and they shouldn't have kept it. They should have turned it over to the state of Utah.
Roughly 70% of all the land in Utah is under federal control, a fact that's bothered political leaders for generations. In this lawsuit, the state wants 18.5 million acres, roughly 34% of the land in Utah. But it's not seeking millions of acres of national parks, monuments, tribal, military, or forest service lands.
Those are actions that have been taken by the federal government. There have been designations made. What we are talking about is the 34% of that land that has not received any designation.
The state is taking the case directly to the U.S. Supreme Court. The governor insists Utah would still protect them for public use, but some would see energy development or increased access.
We're not going to lose these public lands.
One of the catalysts for this lawsuit is the Bureau of Land Management closing some access to areas outside of Moab.
Utahns are losing access at record levels right now on this land. If we don't stand up and do something, we're going to blink our eyes and there's going to be thousands and thousands of more miles of roads closed.
The BLM declined to comment on pending litigation.
Utah, more than 125 years ago, said it had no interest in these federal lands. That was a part of the bargain when Utah became a state.
Environmental groups blast the lawsuit and plan to join the federal government in fighting it.
This is a stunt by the governor to take away federal land that's owned by all Americans, and hand it over to state politicians for short-sighted gain. Landscapes like the Dirty Devil, like Labyrinth Canyon, like Westwater Canyon, are places that Utahns and Americans and visitors from around the world come to Utah to experience.
And we go out and we work our cattle out in the West Desert, and they're reducing our permitting, so the cattle aren't near as prominent out there.
Brent Blake lives near Delta. He says he's experienced federal restrictions. He attended Tuesday's announcement in support of the lawsuit.
It makes it very difficult to do these things, to use our public lands, and so, yeah. This is a huge step.
Now, it could be months before we know if the U.S. Supreme Court will even hear this case. In the Skull Valley, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We now know how much it cost the state to execute Taberón Honey. The Department of Corrections says it was more than $288,000. That includes medical services, personnel, and other expenses. The drug used to kill Honey cost $200,000 all by itself. Honey was put to death by lethal injection earlier this month for the brutal 1998 murder of Claudia Ben in Cedar City.
Utah State Auditor John Dougal's office will be reviewing the state's election processes. It's at the request of some big Republican names on the November ballot, including Governor Spencer Cox, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, U.S. Senate candidate John Curtis, and Attorney General candidate Derek Brown. They're pushing back on claims by now write-in candidate Phil Lyman, who has suggested impropriety in how they gathered signatures to get on the Republican primary ballots. The candidates appear to be calling his bluff, saying they believe an audit will confirm proper procedures and laws were followed.
We have an update on a dam that partially failed in southern Utah in April. During a briefing with lawmakers today, the Utah State engineers said the Panguitch Lake Dam appeared to fail as a result of wind events that pushed ice to the lip of the dam. That led to a 60 to 80-foot crack. The wall of the dam has since been stabilized, and in the meantime, the state has restricted how much water can be stored in it. By the way, there are 227 dams in Utah considered high hazard, meaning they're close to people or buildings. 107 need rehabilitation, and the cost to fix them all is estimated at $444 million.
Speaking of money, the cost of fighting wildfires is very high.
A new state report says so far there have been 961 wildfires in Utah this season, and they have cost about $37.5 million to fight. The biggest and most expensive was the Silver King fire in Piute County. Statewide, more than 50,000 acres of land have burned. 544 of those 961 wildfires were human-caused. That's more than half. Firefighters say wildfire season runs into October, so it remains important for you to be smart when you're outdoors and around fires. Many locations in Utah remain under fire restrictions.
Think back to last night with all that lightning. Thank goodness we had all that rain, Breck, because it really could have perhaps mitigated some new fire starts.
Absolutely. Boy, we've been getting the rain through the weekend last night. And again, the combination with these thunderstorms, they have been producing heavy rain, so not as big of a concern with the fire situation as you would expect with all that lightning. As we've been looking at the thunderstorms moving away from northern Utah, today, the position of those thunderstorms through central and eastern Utah, highlighting as we see those billowing, towering cumulonimbus clouds, as we saw across portions of central and eastern Utah, where, as I showed you just previously, in Green River right now, we're giving you a view from this UDOT traffic camera along I-70. You don't have to wait for too long before you see the flashes. Active weather there, as it will be here for the next hour or two as we turn towards eastern Utah. In Salt Lake City, though, you had the sunshine, you had the heat, though. Wow, cranking up to 99 degrees, where on average we should be in the low 90s. Look at the record set back in 1960 at 103 degrees. Barely avoiding the triple digits. It's kind of difficult to get there as we move closer towards September. We do see it, but again, more difficult than as we look ahead, where we're going to get a bit of a cool down in preparation for the weekend. Right now, though, we're seeing the 80s, winds still out of the south, not too strong here across northern Utah, just a few clouds around. And leaning as we look ahead from the Climate Prediction Center here over the next 6 to 10 days, as we incorporate most of northern Utah, saying, hey, we're going to be slightly below average temperature-wise, where, again, near 90 degrees. We're going to be enjoying 80s, and even for one day here over the next 7 days, 70 degrees. All right, we'll talk about that in just a few moments. Let's get you ready for tomorrow, where as we're seeing that action and the thunderstorm focus here across east central eastern Utah, that's where we'll find ourselves once again with residual moisture in place. That monsoon flow still kind of clipping eastern Utah, and thus as we look at the flash flood potential elevated in some spots for tomorrow, again near looks like Lake Powell, Grand Staircase over towards Zion National Park. That's for tomorrow. For Thursday, more moisture expected. Again, most locations, as we have a bigger concern for flash flood possibilities, it's a higher probability, again, for most areas except Capitol Reef. As we're preparing for that, as we do have some flash flood warnings in effect just northwest of Hanksville, I should say, with the light and thunderstorms that have been tracking through. Again, Green River is where you're getting hit right now. So if you're traveling on your way to Price, you're getting a lightning show currently, but you definitely could encounter some heavy rain showers and some standing water on the road. So making your move over towards Grand Junction, that's definitely going to be a trouble spot here over the next hour or two. As that kind of will settle out here for tonight, tomorrow we'll see kind of a repeat. But there's our cool front still on track to reach us as we go into Saturday. So as we take a look at our upper level flow, we're going to be looking at that low pressure system coming in. Thus, we're going to be bringing some cooler temperatures as we look towards the weekend. But tomorrow, not seeing that, not much relief. Maybe a couple of degrees cooler, but most spots in the 90s. As we look towards eastern Utah, though, we see that threat of an afternoon shower. St. George, you don't see the chance, but Thursday you do. Into Friday, weekend you're clear, but cooler. Highs reaching the low 90s Saturday and Sunday. Northern Utah will also start to see a chance, well, again, another chance of some afternoon showers and some thunderstorms as we go into Sunday. There's the cooler air. We'll have some winds for the weekend, highs in the 70s, but for the next couple of days, we still see the 90s. We'll be back right after the break.
In national news, the Department of Justice is opening a civil rights investigation into the Trousdale Turner Correctional Center in Tennessee.
During a news conference today, the DOJ said previous state audits of the facility found 5 people had been stabbed in a 3-week span, and that between July 2022 and June 2023, there were 196 assaults, 90 incidents of sexual misconduct, and 15 deaths. Staffing also appears to be a serious problem for the facility. The DOJ says the prison has a 188% turnover rate for officers, and staffing shortages have led to just 1 officer being responsible for 3 pods containing 360 inmates.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken continued to push for a ceasefire deal at a meeting with mediators from Egypt and Qatar today. Yesterday, Blinken indicated Israel is on board with a bridging proposal for that ceasefire deal, but Hamas called the latest proposal a, quote, reversal of what it had agreed to. Meanwhile, the bodies of 6 hostages taken in Hamas's October 7th attack were also recovered today.
Alaska and Hawaiian Airlines are one big step closer to merging. That's because the Department of Justice did not file a lawsuit to block the merger following a regulatory investigation. The nearly $2 billion deal was announced in December. If approved, the airlines would keep operating under their own brands. The merger is expected to expand Alaska Airlines' presence internationally and broaden North American travel options from Hawaii.
Coming up after the break, don't let all this rain fool you.
The fight to save the Great Salt Lake and tips on being water wise.
How schools in the Ogden School District are working on new ways to help meet the basic needs of students and their families.
There's a quarterback battle down in Provo that we all want to know the answer to. Details coming up in sports.
Two great water years have put the Great Salt Lake in a much better spot than it was back in 2022.
The Great Salt Lake Commissioner says an increased focus on water conservation has also played a role.
Today, Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold got to tour 3 places that are excelling at saving and conserving water.
Using anywhere between 10 and 15,000 gallons of water that we're recapturing and reusing. Pretty much daily.
Perennial Favorites in Layton is a wholesale grower that grows 1.2 million plants on an annual basis. After concerns grew with the amount of water they were using at their nursery, they decided to make a change 2 years ago.
So we installed a concrete catch basin that those drains all tie into, and as that fills up, there's some floats in there that, so when the water's at the high level, it says, okay, turn the pump on, and it sucks that water from the catch basin, sends it through a filter system. Each one of those tanks is 5,000 gallons, so we have 3 of them, about 15,000 gallons.
so we've had to get really smart about how we manage water.
Joel Ferry is the executive director of the Department of Natural Resources. His family's been ranching in Corinne for 125 years.
Last couple of years, as the state ag optimization program has been implemented, we've seen amazing results in water conservation and increased water coming down into these areas.
Ferry says we are in the middle of one of the driest and hottest summers on record. But with these kinds of efforts, they still have water to divert back into the Bear River.
This water that you're seeing is going right to the Bear River, which ultimately goes right back into Great Salt Lake. And so on the ground, we're seeing results, we're seeing the benefit.
John Perry, the Assistant General Manager for the Weber Basin Conservancy District, explained how water releases work from the Willard Bay Reservoir.
We take water out of the Weber River, take it about 11 miles down what we refer to as our Willard Canal, deliver it into Willard Bay Reservoir, where we can then use that water to either make deliveries out to the Great Salt Lake for flood control or other conservation collaborative efforts that we're engaged in.
Perry says the reservoir is used as a holding pond to store the water and make strategic releases, including through the Willard Spur to the Great Salt Lake. Great Salt Lake Commissioner Brian Steed says major strides are being made in the state to save more water.
We as a state have pivoted, and I don't think that we're all the way where we need to be, but we are certainly making progress in the right direction to get water where it needs to be in the Great Salt Lake.
Steed told me on Tuesday that how we use water in the state matters. He added that if by and large we use water well and better, we can get more to the Great Salt Lake. Here in Corinne, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Nevada Highway Patrol troopers have found a St. George woman and her 3 children who had been missing since yesterday afternoon. 27-year-old Brittany Deal and her children, aged 2 to 9, were believed to be in danger, but this afternoon they were found in Humboldt County, Nevada, just west of Elko. They were safe and unharmed. Authorities have arrested David Gene Remley, this man on your screen. He's accused of taking the children from their daycare yesterday. Deal had just filed a restraining order against him to protect herself and her children. St. George police say an Amber Alert was not issued because there are strict guidelines to keep alerts from being overused, and it was still uncertain at that point as to whether Deal had actually been abducted.
We don't know if Brittany was in the car and she said, hey, go get the kids, and she knows that they're with her and him. That's one thing we don't know. That's a big one, and that's what we're working to try and figure out.
St. George police are working with the Nevada Highway Patrol to determine the circumstances of the case.
A child abuse homicide case in St. George will go to trial next month. 2-year-old Emmeline Mitchell died of head trauma a year ago, allegedly at the hands of her stepfather, 30-year-old Randy Lessing of Laverkin. In 5th District Court today, prosecutors and Lessing's attorney were not able to agree on a plea deal. The judge set the trial for September 16th.
Coming up, one Utah city gets a big boost for its fire department.
And Utah taps new technology to make intersections safer.
As we look at temperatures across the state, we're still enjoying 80s here along the Wasatch Front, a little cooler as we head over towards Green River with a line of thunderstorms moving away from the state. Do we see a repeat of those thunderstorms for tomorrow? And how's the rest of the week look? We'll check on that after the break.
As the school year begins, it brings the possibility of romantic relationships, both old and new.
And with that possibility comes the potential for dating violence. West Valley City Police are asking parents to keep an eye out for the warning signs their teen may be in an abusive relationship.
Warning signs would be just changes in behavior, changes in activity, changes in routine, changes in friends. Obviously the physical warning signs that might be there if they start having injuries or damaged property.
Officers say the most important thing is for victims to reach out to somebody, such as a trusted adult, law enforcement, or even victim advocacy groups.
For more than 100 years, Spanish Fork firefighters were all volunteers until this month. The local fire department has now added a full-time engine company.
The need for full-time to get units on the road faster was needed, and still being able to show respect to the volunteers, and now they're being able to be paid and part-time and be paid to work alongside the full-time staff.
And they deserve every cent they make and more,
They
probably. The department covers around 600 square miles of land between the city and unincorporated Utah County land.
UDOT is using LiDAR technology to improve safety at intersections. LiDAR produces a full 3D picture image of the entire intersection. UDOT says the technology allows them to make adjustments for safety, not only for drivers, but for people on bikes or pedestrians at intersections.
We need to add more green light time for vehicles. If they're trying to force yellow lights or red lights because they don't have enough time, we can make those adjustments. If there's a slower moving pedestrian or somebody trips as they're walking across, this automatically will add 5 seconds to the green light to allow them to cross safely.
LiDAR is currently being used in Murray and at 2 Salt Lake City locations. The department is also testing LiDAR capabilities with connected vehicle technology at 2 Provo locations.
Coming up, we'll show you Ogden High School's new Teen Resource Center.
I'm Andrea Urban, and Real Salt Lake is coming off a 19-day break. How the team used that time to get better in sports. Plus, the quarterback battle continues down in Provo, but it's only making the BYU offense better as they prepare to open the season next Saturday. Hear from head coach Kalani Sitake next in sports.
Welcome back, everyone. Former President Barack Obama took the stage at the Democratic National Convention tonight.
He was introduced by his wife and former First Lady Michelle Obama. And after a joke about how he has aged in the 16 years since he got the nomination, he made his pitch for Kamala Harris to become the next president.
We have a chance to elect someone who has spent her entire life trying to give people the same chances America gave her. Someone who sees you and hears you and will get up every single day and fight for you.
Fox 13 News will carry the last 2 nights of the Democratic National Convention later this week. We'll have live Fox News coverage of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's vice presidential nomination acceptance speech tomorrow night, and Vice President Harris's presidential nomination acceptance speech on Thursday night. Both of those events take place at 8 p.m. right here on Fox 13.
Schools in the Ogden District are working on new ways to help cater to the basic needs of students and their families.
Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubi shows us how.
When I was a freshman in high school, I lived in a 2-bedroom home and there was 8 of us. So I slept on the floor for the first year.
Alma Palmer is the vice principal at Ogden High School. He knows what it's like to not have a safe space or clean clothes. That's where the new teen resource centers at Ogden and Ben Lomond High Schools come in because of a growing need for help.
I think this is really important for students, especially students that don't have needs met at home, so they can feel safe in a place where they are cared for. There's showers and places to just relax, a study hall.
The teen centers are stocked with food in their pantry, have showers, laundry machines, quiet areas to do homework or study, clothes, school supplies, books, and access to outside resources if they're looking for more help. At Ogden High, the Boys and Girls Club run an after-school program so kids can stay late if they need to.
Being able to have a free space that you can come to is going to be something that will have an effect on them for the rest of their lives.
But it's not just the high schools. Odyssey Elementary has a family resource center that opened back in December.
It's super important to have something like this, especially with the proximity of the homeless shelter around here.
So kids of all grade levels can focus on what's being taught in the classroom.
Kids can come to school and focus on school, not necessarily have to worry about what they're gonna have for breakfast or dinner, not necessarily worry about the clothes that they're having to wear, if they're dirty or clean.
Hoping to make the lives of their students a little bit easier.
I think that's the ultimate goal with all education, is to make our world a better place, and so we'll do it one kid at a time.
In Ogden, I am Maithili Gubi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
All right, so check it on your weather forecast. First, sharing a photo coming up on our Facebook page. This is Janice across the Salt Lake Valley with the caption on her post, "Peaceful evening." Yeah, it's been rough here over the last three evenings here across the Wasatch Front with these thunderstorms moving through. We did not see that activity here, at least through northern Utah. All right, let's get to it where watches and warnings. Now we've got to focus for fire weather concerns. We're going to be looking at things drying out, particularly for northern, west central, southwestern Utah as we look especially Thursday into Friday. Thus, we're also going to be seeing winds picking up ahead of our next cool front and system that's going to be shaking things up for the weekend. But we're going to be seeing a nice little cool down. As it's calm right now, peaceful in Salt Lake City, upper 80s, winds light, humidity low. We are still looking at a few thunderstorms moving through east central Utah here in the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. But chances of rainfall for St. George Thursday, you've got an increased risk of seeing some showers and some thunderstorms as well. Should be good for the weekend, though. No issues thereafter. Northern Utah, we've got a few days with slightly active weather, really as we go Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with an approaching cool front, as we'll have some residual moisture that'll bring some instability, as those scattered rain showers will be in effect as we move through the weekend and seeing that drop in temperatures. But we'll also have to be mindful of the winds. But we're mindful for tomorrow, flash flood potential elevated in some spots as we go from Lake Powell over towards Grand Staircase into Zion National Park. That's a zone where we've got the moisture, we've got chances of afternoon rain showers and some thunderstorms, as that'll be in effect for tomorrow. But again, looking at these line of thunderstorms moving through Green River over towards Grand Junction, potentially impacting or clipping portions of Arches National Park into Moab. That focus as that activity will continue on until after midnight. Northern, central, western Utah, you're dry here for tonight. Again, that zone for rain, though, across Zion National Park all the way over towards the Uinta Basin. Now, for the weekend, really as we go from Friday into Saturday, this front will be moving through. Again, it will bring some chances of rain showers as we look here across northern Utah, but we extend the break from the rain and the thunderstorms for northern Utah as we go through tomorrow. Again, the focus will be from Vernal, Green River, Price, southeastern Utah, so enveloping areas such as Moab towards Blanding, south central, southwestern Utah. That'll be the focus where we see the rain and chances of those thunderstorms that we've been seeing here throughout most of the state over the past few days. For tonight, it's clear. Temperatures getting down into the low 70s. Still temperatures above average, maybe not quite as hot as we saw today. Again, we got up to 99 degrees today. Tomorrow expected high in Salt Lake City, 96, 101 in St. George with that chance of rain there across eastern Utah. St. George, we go from triple digits to 90s. Chances of isolated thunderstorms Friday, but clear for the weekend as we get down into the low 90s. Northern Utah, mid 90s to mid 80s with that rain and thunderstorms through Sunday. We see temperatures going down into the 70s at least for one day. Will be dry next week with temperatures rebounding back into the 80s.
There's a quarterback battle down in Provo that may just be making the team better. Jake Retzlaff, who finished the season last year under center for the Cougs, and Baylor transfer Gary Bohannon, they're both getting equal reps in fall camp. And since Zach Wilson in 2020, BYU has had a quarterback battle through fall camp. Retzlaff's strength, his playbook knowledge, while Bohannon has Big 12 experience playing with Baylor. Head coach Kalani Sitake says this is a good spot to be in because both QBs are making the offense better.
No, I feel like we have two quarterbacks that have emerged, so that's a different feel for me, you know. So like I truly feel comfortable with either one playing on the field and winning games for us. So go through the process of the quarterback battle. We've been through this before. I know that Gary and Jake are competing for the starting spot, but they're also helping each other and coaching each other. I think we have the benefit of having great young men compete for those spots, and the team responds the right way to those guys. We feel really good about the way that they've competed, especially after the scrimmage. I think we're in a really good spot right now. The closer we get to the game, the more likely we'll have a starter name.
Utah State football brought in an entirely brand new defensive staff after what seemed to be a weak spot for the squad last year. During fall camp, the defensive line has been an emphasis for the Aggies.
I'd say the biggest thing is when you watch the game tape and then you get through spring and to where we are right now, just the violent mentality and the way we want to play the game. Like, we are trying to go knock things back. We're trying to tear off the blocks. We're trying to show up. We're trying to make the big play in terms of just a physical piece. I think that has helped everything else. You come and bring that with technically sound, habits. It's kind of been coming together that way.
Real Salt Lake is on a 19-day off break due to Leagues Cup play, with their return to regular season coming up this Saturday at America First Field versus San Jose. Now, 19 days is almost as long as a preseason. Head coach Pablo Mastroeni talks about what they've done to fill the time.
It's been a training camp. It's been hard to manage as far as making sure you're getting the right amount of work with the rest, knowing that we're going to have, a sprint down the stretch. But the guys have taken on really good. We've had some days where we've gone out away from the game and spent some time together. But the training sessions have been really, really intense. I think that makes it easier for the new players to acclimate, understanding first what the mentality is going to be like, and then what the tactics are. We have a full group, which has been great to work with, and now we have a lot of competition at a time where we're going to need it.
I'm Andrea Urban, and that'll do it for sports. We'll be right back.
Finally, in Logan, patients living with dementia and their caregivers were treated to afternoon at the movies at the Utah Theater. Utah State University's Alzheimer's Disease and Dementia Research Center partnered with the Alzheimer's Association to host a dementia-friendly showing of Singin' in the Rain. The screening featured dim lighting, subtitles, and allowed people to move around, chat, and even sing and dance along with the film.
That's such a great idea to have
Yes.
like that. And a good movie, too.
Well,
It's a
especially
classic.
right now, Singing in the Rain.
That is true. We're all singing it.
Stick around. QuickCast is next.